In this video, I'll show you how you can get the ofxFaceTracker add-on from Kyle McDonald to run on macOS openFrameworks installation. There are a couple of issues with the add-on and the latest version of openFrameworks, so I'll show you how you can get it running using an older version of openFrameworks. Just to mention, I have macOS 10.14.6 and Xcode 11.2.1. So if your versions are different, your results might also be slightly different, but this should work at the time that I'm making this video. So the ofxFaceTracker, what it is, essentially what you can do with it is then we'll try to end up with a simple example today that looks something like this, that just gives you the features, the points from the ofxFaceTracker in your own application. But let's first talk through what the issue actually is. So if you go to the add-on, you'll notice in GitHub, you'll notice that it's been updated to work on OF 0.10.0. The latest version of openFrameworks at the moment is 0.11.0, and if you look at the issues in the GitHub of ofxFaceTracker, I think we can find it here, that the actual reason like why this is an issue. Here Kyle answers himself. The problem is that openFrameworks 10.2 upgraded openCV to version 4.0.1, and FaceTracker is not compatible with that version. So that's the main issue, like why cannot we run it on the latest openFrameworks version. So in order to then get this to work, we have to download a slightly older version of openFrameworks, and you can find that from the openFrameworks website if you go to downloads, and if you scroll all the way down, there's this other releases, and all the releases of openFrameworks are archived here. Click the link, and what we're going to be using is release 0.10.1. So click the link that's there, takes you to the folder where you can download for your operating system. So I'm going to download the OS X release of 0.10.1 and just download that. And while it's downloading, I'll quickly explain some other things about the add-on. So if you look at the documentation or the README file, you'll notice that this add-on requires also a couple of additional add-ons, and not just the ofxFaceTracker. The one that's definitely required is ofxCV, which you can download from here. The other two, they are used in some of the examples that come with the add-on. So they're not absolutely necessary for you to download just to get it working. So for this video, I'm not going to download these two. I'm just going to go with the one that's actually required to run the basic functionality of the add-on. But if you want to go into some of these examples that are here, then I recommend installing these two other add-ons. But for the sake of this video, I'm not going to do them now, because I'm going to do a fresh install of openFrameworks. And you can take a look at the examples, like what they actually do. There's one for iOS, so you can actually you need a different add-on to get that working, so there's instruction there. But there's a brief description of all the examples that come with the add-on. There's also this FaceOSC application that you can use to really like prototype how the tracking works and how accurate it is and what kind of things you could do with it. And so this is a ready-made application you can use that gets all the tracking info and sends it over OSC to any application that you might be using. So you can make your own openFrameworks application that gets the OSC data, or you could use it in Pure Data, MaxMSP, whatever, Touch Designer, whatever you want to might be using. Okay, so looks like the openFrameworks has downloaded. So let's unzip it and get it somewhere on the computer. And I'll show you another issue that you're going to face when you're trying to compile any of these newer openFrameworks. Using this older openFrameworks version, what kind of issues you will run into. So I'm gonna just drag my, didn't mean to do that. Let's get rid of that. I'm gonna drag mine to someone on your computer. This is the basic installation that you've been doing already, so this should be nothing new. I usually like to just rename my folder so that with the release and a slightly simpler name. So of0101 0101. And let's see what the other issue is when you use this older version. So if you go to any of the examples, let's say I'm going to open the standard graphics example. I'll open the Xcode project, and so it's opening on another screen here. So I'll drag it over here. So here's the sorry, my graphics card is acting a bit weird. So here's the standard graphics example, and this is an issue that you will face with every single example or project that's been that's generated by the older project generator that comes with this version, and all of the examples that come with this version of openFrameworks. I'm going to build this and yes, stop. Sorry, I have something running in the background. So let's see what it says when we try to build one of these. This was a fresh install, so it'll take a while. It has to build the entire library. So give me a second. Okay, I had the recording paused, so now it took a couple of minutes to build the entire thing. But you will see an error like this. It will say code sign error, command blah blah blah, fail with exit code 1. So this is an issue with this version of openFrameworks that has been fixed in newer versions. But since we have to kind of use this version, we have to manually fix this issue with the project. Gladly, it's not such a big deal, and this can be easily fixed. So, but it's just a bit kind of complicated to find where to do this. So what you need to do is click the project, in this case the graphics example project file in the go to the browser of your files in your project and click the graphics example, and what it will do is it will open this view that has all the settings for the project and the target. What we need to do is click on the target graphics example. So this is the app that it's Xcode will build, and we'll go to the build settings here, and from this list scroll all the way down, scroll to a section that says assigning, and over here find the line that says other code signing flags. Double click on the empty area and it will open this little pop-up. Click plus and it will then allow you to type something here, and what you need to type is --deep. I'm not going to go into what this actually means, but this is the magic fix that will allow you to compile your projects. So --deep, then just press enter and click away from the little pop-up, and the deep appears here in the other code signing flags. And now what I can do, I can go back to my project, I can click build again, and now it should take a shorter time, and it should actually run. Yeah, we got build succeeded, and we can get this to run. Great. Okay, so that will be the fix also for this ofxFaceTracker, and the fix that you will need to do if you need to now work in this version of openFrameworks. If you want to compile some other examples, just remember to do that. Go to the settings of the project, build settings, signing, other code signing flags, and add the deep there. Okay, so now we got that working, everything is fine. Next step will be for us to actually install the add-ons that we're wanting to use. So we're kind of quite long away into the video, but we haven't even downloaded the add-on. So let's do that. So the way to install your add-on is just like with always, you add it to the add-ons folder of your openFrameworks folder. Make sure that you're in the right version. And so you can use the terminal to do this, or you can just download the folder from the website. So I'm going to download the ofxFaceTracker and then open that, and it will say ofxFaceTracker master. Just going to drag that whole folder into my add-ons. I'm going to remove the master part that designates the branch of this add-on. I'm going to remove the master part away from there. So that's now installed, but remember we also need to do the ofxCV. So I'm going to go and download also that. I'm going to do the same thing. Usually I do this via the terminal, but for the sake of this video I'm just going to do it the maybe slightly more clear way if you're not familiar with working with the terminal. So same thing with this ofxCV. I'm just going to drag it into my add-ons folder. I'll remove the name, the master part from the name, and now I have these two installed. So all should be good. And at this point we could try running some of these examples that come with the add-on, but that come with the FaceTracker add-on. So these are the examples. But rather than doing that, I would like to actually show you, and we'll make our own project from scratch, and I'll talk you through the different steps that are involved to get this add-on working. So go to your project generator, run it, and it will open. And this is also slightly different from the latest version of openFrameworks. On the latest version, the first time you run the project generator, it will ask you to run a script. In this version, there's no script, so it says, for security reasons, please set the OF path to root of openFrameworks. So you have to manually, using this little dialog here, you have to manually tell the project generator where your openFrameworks folder is. So for me, it's right here. Just make sure that you find the correct version. So it's the one we just installed, and now click open. Just the root of the actual openFrameworks folder. So for me, it's called that. Click open, and then it's set, and I can go to create update, and I'm going to make a new project. So let's call this, I don't know, face tracking test or something like this. And we need to add a couple of add-ons. So first of all, the ofxFaceTracker, that's obvious. Then what you also need is to use the required ofxCV add-on, but that's not actually enough. We also have to include the built-in openCV add-on that comes with openFrameworks. So make sure that you also add the ofx openCV. So now there's two openCV add-ons in this one project, but both are required to make this work. And otherwise my settings look fine. I'll click generate. Usually this is a bit quicker. For some reason on my computer it's been a bit slow recently generating this project, so let's give it some time. There we go. And now I can do open in IDE. And here's my project. And this will have exactly the same issue as we did for the graphics example that I just showed you. So before we even do anything, make sure that we set that setting correctly. So I'm going to click the project, face tracking test, make sure that I have the target selected. I go to the build settings, scroll all the way down to signing, other code signing flags, double click, click the plus icon, -- deep. And now it's there. Good. So we don't have any code actually here yet, so there's nothing using. We haven't even included the add-ons into our code yet, so there's nothing's going to happen when I run this. But I want to just make sure that I can get this to build. So just double check clicking run or build, and let's see, it should build our app in a second. Okay, so now we're compiled. It seemed to compile just fine. It took a lot longer than it did here in the video. I just cut out the actual compiling part away, and it should run the application. And well, it's just a gray window. There's nothing there because we don't have any code. Okay, so now our sort of setup is done. We have everything that we need. Now we can actually get to the actual code and the inner workings of the add-on. So first things we need to do is we need to include all the add-ons that we're using. So we'll do ofxCV.h. We'll also need to include ofxFaceTracker.h. But you will notice that I'm not including the ofx openCV in my header file. That is because internally the ofxCV, it's using some of the files from the ofx openCV. So I don't have to include it over here. At least that's how I remember it is. I might be wrong on this, but if I remember correctly, that's how it's set up here. So you don't have to include it here. ofxCV, it will just get all the files that it needs from this the openCV built-in add-on. So let's continue. In order to actually get this to work, we have to build this step by step, or I would recommend building this step by step. And the first step would be in our case, since we want to be able to track a face in a camera image, we also of course have to get the camera image first into our application. So I'm going to use the OF video grabber. I'm going to call mine cam. You could call yours whatever you want, my camera, or name it after, like it's your eyesight camera or whatever you're using. I'm just going to call mine cam. I think that's enough for this. Yeah, let's first get that working. So in the setup, I will then need to first of all figure out what device is the one that I need to use. So I'm going to print out a list of all the devices that I have and the ID numbers of all the camera devices I have connected to my computer. And with this, I will be able to then choose the correct one. So I'm going to create a vector of OF video devices, or it's called OF video device. So I'm going to get a list of all the devices I have. So I'm going to call this vector devices, and I'm going to say that that should be cam.list devices. So this is part of the OF video grabber class, and it will give you a list of all the devices that you have. So as I'm getting a list, I don't know how big it is, I'm just going to go through every one of them using a for loop. So I'll just create a simple for loop, start from 0, and I will do I should be less than the devices dot size. Because it's a vector, I should be able to get how many elements there are there. And I++. Just step through all of them, simple for loop. And inside the for loop, I'm going to print out, using the oflog notice, I'm going to print out all the IDs of every single device. So I'm going to go to the devices vector, I'm going to choose the current index value, and I want to get the ID number, and I will print that out. And then I also want to print out a the name of the device, so I know the ID and I know what the name is. So I'm gonna just add, I'm gonna add just a colon between, so it's gonna print out the ID number, a colon, and then it's gonna print out the device name is also part of the class. So that should give me all the devices, and let's run this just like this, so we see what kind of cameras do I actually have connected, and how openFrameworks sees them, and what is the ID for each, and then I can choose the one that I want to use. Okay, build succeeded, and we can stop it. We don't have to run it for long. The only thing that we're really interested in is this list. So what we're getting is device 0, cam twist, device 1 is another cam twist. So I have a lot of these like virtual webcams here, like the cam twist and the snap camera. I have my FaceTime camera that's built into the laptop, and then I have the camera that I actually want to use, that it's connected to this capture card that I have. So in my case, I want to use device ID number 2. Yours might be different, so just make sure that you choose the correct one. So what I'll do is I'll set for my for the camera, I want to set the device ID as number 2. Also, I want to set the resolution for my video grabber. So that is done, I'm going to initialize it with a certain size. So that's done with the command init grabber, and then you define the width and height. So let's use that. I'm going to use 1280 by 720. My camera would support even up to 4K, or like I think it's now like natively coming in as a full HD, but just to fit it into the screen and like make it also faster for the tracker, I'm going to use 1280 by 720. And that's it. So that should open up the camera. There's a couple of other things we need to do to make this actually show up in our application. The first thing is in the update, we'll do cam.update. I'm not going to go into details of the video grabber, there's other tutorials for that. But the update, cam.update, it just updates the so that it gets a new frame if there's one available. And then to actually see our camera image, I'm going to do cam.draw in the draw, and I'm going to draw it at 0, 0, just from the top left corner, just whatever the size of my camera is. And the size of my camera is defined by this init grabber function call here. So 1280 by 720. What I would maybe want to do at this point is also to make sure that my output window is big enough to actually show this this kind of image size. So I go to the main.cpp, and by default this has been set to 1024 by 768. So let's change the size of my output to match the camera image. So 1280 720, and that should be it. Now when I run this, I should actually see the camera image show up, and it should be drawn on the screen. And also, now that I'm looking at what it prints out here, it looks like maybe I didn't even have to do this. Maybe even by default it prints out all the device devices, a list of them. So that was maybe unnecessary. but it's there anyway. So it's good to also know that, because there's a lot of other parameters that you might want to pull from the attached devices. So my computer asked me, should I allow the app to open up my camera? I'm going to say yes. And there we go. We have camera image coming in, and let's stop it. Okay, good. We're getting closer to actually getting this to work. Let's go back to the header file, and let's add actually the things that we need for the tracker to work. So now we're getting to the real meat of this video. So ofxFaceTracker object is what I want to use, and it's actually with a capital T. So ofxFaceTracker is comes from the add-on, and I'm gonna call this, again, you can call it whatever you want. You can use my tracker, whatever naming convention you have. Just like to keep it simple here, just call it tracker. It should be fine. And at the moment I think that's all. We're probably gonna come back here and add some other things, but for now let's just get the tracker working in its basic setup. So we'll go back to the CPP, and there's a few things we have to do to get this working. First of all, in the setup part of our code, we need to set up the tracker. So the command is tracker.setup. And this will basically just initialize the tracker and do all the magic things inside the add-on to make it work. Then we also of course have to tell the tracker what image should it track. So if we don't tell it, it's not going to know what to do. So that will be that we will do in the update, and we'll do it after we have updated the camera. And our application by default runs at 60 frames per second. The camera image might not come in quite as fast depending on your camera. Usually it will be 30 frames per second, or it could be even slower, or might also depend then on how complex your application is, and like what is the frame rate, what is the camera frame rate, and so on. So instead of just trying to update the image every single frame, even if there's not a new one actually coming in, we can do something like this here in the update. We can check if the camera has a new frame. So using this is frame new, and this should then be able to only run if the camera actually has a new frame for the application to process. So we don't do unnecessary processing of the same frame twice if there's not a new image coming from the camera. So in that case, so if this is true, if the cam.isFrameNew will return true, then what we want to do is we want to update the tracker with the image from the camera. And now there's a small issue. Like if I would just try to do this, tracker.update cam, it gives me error. It says no viable conversion from OF video grabber to CV mat. The tracker is using then this ofxCV image format and all this to kind of like make the processing of these images faster. And the standard OF video grabber image that comes in is not compatible with this function here. So we need to somehow convert the OF video grabber, the image that we get from there, to this CV mat format. I'm just going to tell you how to do this, and this is just based on the examples. I haven't dug so deep into it, but this is based on the examples from the ofxFaceTracker. What we need to do is we need to use command to CV. Oops, sorry. It should be here, to CV, and this will basically then convert the the image to a compatible format, but it says use of undeclared identifier to CV. Did you mean ofxCV to CV? So yes, I meant this. So we could type in what it suggests us to do here. But in a lot of cases, when you start messing more with the tracker, and you might do some more complex stuff using the ofxCV add-on, especially if you kind of look into the examples where there's more complex computer vision techniques being applied to the image, in addition to the tracking itself. We could kind of like clean up our code a little bit by adding this namespace to our project, we would be basically like using commands that are part of the ofxCV. So what we can do here is in the top part of our ofapp.h, we can use type in using namespace ofxCV, and note that you write it exactly like this so that it will work. And let me see, everything should be fine. It still get this error here, but let's try to run it. It should clear out. So now any kind of like these specific commands from the ofxCV add-on, we don't have to always include the full name of it when we added this using namespace on the top. And it takes a little while, and we should get it updating. It builds. And let's see. Okay, I'm gonna allow it. And I got an error. Okay, so we got an error after trying to build our application. And in this case, the error is very, very helpful. It tells exactly what went wrong. The error message says, make sure you place the files face2.tracker and so on and so forth in the data/model folder. We forgot to do that. So if you would look at the documentation of the ofxFaceTracker add-on, in the README, there is this line. It says, you need to make a copy of the libFaceTracker model directory in your data folder. We forgot to do that, and we didn't read the instructions properly. So let's try to do it. So I have to go here to find a folder called model and add it to my data folder. So let's see where we can find it. Here is my openFrameworks. Make sure that you're in the correct one if you have multiple openFrameworks folders on your computer. This is the one I'm working on at the moment. In my add-ons, I should find the ofxFaceTracker. I should find lib's FaceTracker model folder. It includes these 4 files. So I have to copy this entire folder and take it to where my actual project is. So for me, that's in apps, my apps, and there's face tracking test. And in your own project folder, make sure that you're in the correct one. Go to the bin folder, go to the data folder, and then paste the model folder there. Okay, now we're done. Now, if I would run this, I should get it working. Yes, it works, but I don't see anything happening. It just looks like my camera is a bit slower, but nothing really is going on. That's the reason. The reason is because although we set up the tracker, in the update we are updating the tracker, so it actually is trying to find the faces and it's trying to find all the information from your face, but we are not drawing anything, or we're not doing anything with this data. So a simple way to just check that it works is to use that draw command that comes with the add-on. So we'll do tracker.draw after drawing the camera, and this should just show us what kind of tracking is going on, and if it's finding our face, if it's finding all the features and all of that good stuff. So let's see. It's built. It's opening the camera. Yes, I want to allow it. And there we go. It's drawing these polylines on my face on the features that it detects. Okay, interesting. So what you can see, this is all the data it gets. These points from my face. There are also a couple of gestures that it can detect. Things like how open your mouth is, how open your eyes are, how I think there was some other features also, some other gestures also there. I forget, I don't remember them by heart, but this is the basic data. All of these points, all of these polylines that are being tracked from my face. So let's see what I can do to get a bit more information about them. And so maybe something like, okay, you want to figure out, I don't know, you want to figure out perhaps which point in the data is the points that make up your nose, and you would like to attach something on your nose, and so on and so forth. So let's see kind of like what we could do to get a bit more information. From the tracker, one thing we can do is we can get, if we look at the, let's see how the autocomplete works. So if you look at all the things that the tracker has available for us, there's all kinds of like we can set some settings on it. Looks like there's different features like face outline. We can also get like the direction of your entire face. Are you facing forward, left, or right? Or if it's unknown. We can also get things like some gestures. We can get things like the image features, which are polylines. So these image features are the other things that you just saw, like for example the shape of my mouth or the shape of my jaw or things like these. We can also get two-dimensional vectors, image points. So that would be each point that it detects, and that's actually what I'm interested in. I want to get all of these image points, and I want to kind of figure out what point is what and what do they do and all of this good stuff. So looking at it, the tracker dot get image points. It returns a vector of two-dimensional vectors. So that's what we would probably need to create in our code, a vector of vectors that would be able to store all of the data. So let's do that. So let's backtrack a little bit and go to our .h file, and let's create a vector of glm vec2s. So there's only x and y, there's no three-dimensional information, so 2 dimensions is just fine. So x and y is just fine. And I'm going to call this something like face points. Yeah, sounds fine. So that's in my ofapp.h, calling them face points. And let's go back to the .cpp. And over here, I then want to store all of the data from the tracker into this vector. All of the points that I can get, all the individual x and y coordinates I get, or vectors, sorry, I want to get that stored into this vector. So before we do that, let's actually also make this in a way. I could do this in the update. I think for this time I'm just going to do it all in the draw. I just want to store all the points in the or well, actually no, let's do it in the update. Let's do it here. So if there's a new camera frame, we update the tracker, and then we can also update our list of points. So, and it's also kind of smart maybe now to do it in a way that we only update the points if we actually get if the points are updated, and or that the tracker actually sees our faces. So what we'll do is inside here we'll do tracker dot get found. So there's a boolean. It just basically gives us if the tracker has found a face. So we'll put this in an if statement. We'll say if the tracker has found a face, then we want to do something, and that something is, in this case, is that we want to store into our face points vector, we want to store all the points that we get from the tracker. So we'll say tracker dot get image points, and now they are stored there. And let me see, do I want to do anything else? I don't think so. Yeah, I just wanna update the points whenever there's new points available. And in the draw, I would like to only draw the tracker if the face actually has been found. So I'm going to do the same thing I did in the update. I'll say if tracker dot get found is true, then and only then I want to draw the tracker. I don't need to draw it if it's not there. Also, what I would like to do, oops, I forgot parentheses from the tracker get found. So tracker.getFound, this returns a boolean. This will be either true or false, and then the if statement will be run or not. So I'll draw the tracker, and I also want to draw each individual point, because the tracker it draws a polyline like this line on the face. I want to also see the individual points as, for example, circles, or I could draw tiny images to each single point, or I could do whatever. So let's see. So we're gonna get a vector, so a bunch of different points. So we're gonna have to go through them in some way. So a for loop is the obvious choice. So I'll go create a simple for loop, and this time I wanna always do that for some reason. I want to go through every single point in our face points vector. So I'll say I is less than face points dot size. This should give us how many points we actually have, and then just I++, step through one by one through the array. Let's see. Yeah, that's fine. And inside the for loop, what I want to do is, let's say I want to draw a circle to everywhere where there's a new point. So at the coordinate where the tracker sees a point, this image point, that as they call them in the add-on, I want to draw a circle there. So I'll do of draw circle, and we're drawing a circle, and we are able to use, since the face points are vec2s, we are able to use this version of of draw circle. So we just have to define the point as a vector, and then we also define the radius of the point. So we'll do this, and the point that or the vector that we want to use comes from this face points. So we'll do face points, capital P, face points I is our the actual x and y coordinate, or the vector of this point, each individual point. That's where we're gonna draw it. And the radius, I don't know, let's try something like 3. We can change this later on. Yeah, this looks fine. Let's clean it up a little bit and let's run it. Takes a little while to build it, but what I should see now, okay, once it tracks my face, you see that it actually draws a circle for each point that it sees. And now maybe I would want to do something where I want to create an application where there's stuff coming out of my nose or out of my mouth or out of my eyes. I would have to figure out which of these points in my vector points, which one of these image points is the one that I want to use. And we could kind of like go through, there was the option of getting not the entire face, like all the points of the tracker, but you could ask only for a certain feature, like the mouth or the eyes and so on. But you still would have to figure out from the points like which one you want to use and which ID number or which index number that is. So as an easy solution to figuring that out, I'm gonna just draw as text. I'll do ofdraw bitmap string. You could load up a TrueType font and use that, but I'm gonna use just the bitmap string. ofdraw bitmap string. I want to draw the number, the index number, at the location where the point is. So I cannot I kind of like, my first instinct would just be doing like this. So like I want to draw the eye as a text, and I want to draw it where in the location of the each point, so face points index I. If I try to do this, let's see. Oh, it works. For some reason I thought that you still had to, let's see, click OK. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so it works. I actually thought that in the code we would still have to convert this into a string, but looks like either something has changed or in openFrameworks or I just haven't noticed this change. But you, because I think you used to have to always do this, or if the string I, and then it would convert it to string and then it would work. But looks like nowadays openFrameworks allows you to do this. Okay, that's fine. Great. So it works. So for example, now if I would want to attach something to, I don't know, to this point right here, 27, or if I want to have something attached to point 35, or 30 would be the tip of my nose, or the side of my mouth would be 54. This is a good way to kind of like identify where each individual image point is and what is their index number, and then you can start doing something more interesting. Okay, that's I think enough for now. This should get you going. I might make another video about the gestures and some other more advanced stuff, but this should get you going in with some like basic stuff and basic functionality of the add-on. Also, I recommend taking a look at the examples. You should be able to make them compile. Just remembering doing the same trick that we did with the signing thing. There might be also some things in the code that you would need to change to make it actually compile in this version of openFrameworks. Yeah, let's see, I might make another video about that, but this should get you going. Just quickly run through the code again just to recap. in our ofapp.h, we just need to include our add-ons. We need to create a video grabber container, ofxFaceTracker, calling it tracker. We need to create a vector that stores all the points from our tracker that we get. In the setup, also this, using this namespace ofxCV, we're only using this actually in one place, right here to CV. I added it because it's done so in the example, so it will not confuse you if you try to follow some of those. So this is just a trick to that. In the setup, we just list out all the devices. We select the correct device for the camera, set the size, we set up the tracker. In the update, we update the camera, and if there's a new frame from the camera, we then update the tracker using that image from the camera that has been converted to this CV matte image format, or ofxCV matte image format. And then we check if the tracker actually finds a face in the image. We store all of the image points that the tracker gets. We store them to this vector that we created, the face points. That's all of the code in our update. In the draw, what I'm just doing is drawing the camera, and then if the tracker has found a face, then we draw the tracker. That's the standard way of the tracker. ofxFaceTracker draws the tracker information using these polylines. And then we also step through each one of the face points using a for loop. So we'll just go through all the points stored in the vector, and we draw a circle in the location of each point with a radius of 3, and we draw a bitmap string in the location where the image point is, and that's it. We get this as a result, which is your basic simple ofxFaceTracker, kind of like a starting point. And with this starting point, you can then move on to create something more interesting. For example, if we have this, start growing something out of your face, create a particle system that uses these points as the sort of starting point of emitting those particles. Use your face features as some sort of like a force for another system. You can even look at the examples and look at the documentation of the ofxFaceTracker. There's other GitHub repositories that will show you how you can do sort of this phase substitution, for example. But yeah, this should get you going, and I'll probably make another video talking about the gestures and some other features that we could do, and maybe we'll do like some simple example continuing on this basic one. Okay, thanks. Hopefully this was helpful.